Welcome back for more Resident Evil 3 content, ladies and gents. Hope you're doing well. My name is Louis, aka Manyouaman here, and today I'll be giving you my thoughts, my opinion, and my review of Resident Evil 3 Remake. So how I'm gonna approach this review is basically I'm not gonna review the original of the game. I'm gonna review specifically the remake of this game, but I'll be comparing to the original a lot. So what you guys are watching in the background right now is just me basically going through the game again, playing in easy mode and using some of the weapons that I didn't use before, some of the deluxe weapons, and of course changing Jill costume. So what you're watching right now is Jill Valentine original Resident Evil 3 costume, but instead of a mini skirt, it was been changed to a short shorts, I guess. So that being said, later on you'll see Jill wearing the classic Mansion Incident Stars outfit as well. In terms for Carlos, he didn't have a costume change, it's only the hair change. So the hair change is reflective to his original Resident Evil 3 character. So I basically finished the game about a week ago, so I had time to kind of reflect and kind of think about the game in more detail, because when I first played the game, when I put it on, when I played it, gone through the campaign, everything, I didn't understand what all the fuss about, all the complaints about from all the other people and reviewers. I would easily rate this game 9 out of 10. You know, I had a lot of fun, popping heads. It's more action orientated. I love Jill Valentine. I love the redesign of Carlos, and I just think he was a badass. He's more of a, more of a teenager, a bit of a weasel, kind of, if that's a good way to describe Carlos in the original. And now he's more rugged, more manly, and just but still a bit cheesy on himself. So I like the redesign of Carlos. So I thought, okay, I don't really understand. Yes, the game was really short, but the original Resident Evil 3 was short as well. So I didn't really understand what all the fuss is about until, like I did for this time, after I played the game, I just started to think a lot more and compare the remake and the original a lot more, and I started having this revelation and just like, oh my god, yeah, I now finally understand what other people were saying. So that being said, I'm gonna go through my list of positive and negative. So I think we should start off with the positive first. So the first positive is that the gameplay is really fun to play. It's really solid. It's similar to Resident Evil 2 Remake. They didn't make a lot of tweak, but it just feels like the gun felt better, the headshot felt better. It felt like the vibration of the gun when you're using the controller, you can almost feel it. The impact on the zombies when the bullet hits, it sounds sick. Yeah, I think overall the gameplay is very solid. The addition of the dodge button, the R1 dodge button, make the character a little bit more agile. Because in Resident Evil 2, one of the negatives is that it can be quite rigid. Sorry, the movement can be a little bit rigid. So sometimes you just get caught out by enemies attack and you can't make a run for it. You just have to tank it. But in Resident Evil 3, there's opportunity for you to get out of danger by using and timing your dodge button appropriately for Jill. The action is there, the enemies are there, the gunplay is there, and it feels absolutely excellent. But with that being said, there's a negative about the gameplay is that Resident Evil 3 Original, the classic on the PlayStation 1, has some puzzles. There's a lot of them. And some of them can be memorable as well, and one can be annoying in the factory at the end. And in Resident Evil 3 Remake, there is no puzzle whatsoever. I remember there's one puzzle which is at the end of the game when you have to make the vaccine, and you just have to get all 3 bars to 50, and that was it. But it wasn't really anything that you need to think about, because you can, by trial and error, you can just press everything to high, medium, low, and eventually you'll get it, like I did. Eventually you'll get there. So there wasn't any puzzle at all. In Resident Evil 2 Remake, what they did is they tried to figure out some puzzles, you know, the Sherry, the wooden block puzzle. That was really fun to do. That's difficult, but frustrating. But it was actually really fun to do. And it's a big part of Sherry's gameplay is doing that wooden puzzle. And I feel like Resident Evil 3 is missing a lot of that. It's just basically a very straight line, linear, A to B, A to B. You go there, you kill zombies, you grab that item, you go back, unlock stuff, kill more people, and that's it. So it's very linear and the puzzle just non-existent, which is a bit of a shame. So another negative about this game is there is no classic audio to pick from. What I mean by that is in Resident Evil 2 Remake, you can switch between the remake or classic audio, and the whole game just changed. The background music to selecting items to item boxes, everything, safe room, all the audio has changed, all the music, everything has changed back to Resident Evil original. So fan in the original will feel a little bit of a nostalgia hit, but that is missing in Resident Evil 3 Remake, and I don't know why. I don't know why the dev decided not to put it in when they did for Resident Evil 2 Remake, because Resident Evil 3 got some of the good iconic audio. And talking about iconic audio, Nemesis iconic Stars cry was completely missing. They toned it down, they made it high pitch, high frequency, however you want to call it. It just sounds different, it sounds crap. And how did they mess this up? Because this iconic Stars cry is what made Resident Evil 3 great in the first place. You hear it and you just shit your pants because you need to run away from him. You just don't know where he is, and one punch, you're dead. You know, and that what made original so great and is completely missed. So in terms of the content of the game, you have the standalone campaign with Jill Valentine's and Carlos just trying to survive Raccoon and get out Raccoon City before it gets blown up by the government. But there is also an online multiplayer game called Resident Evil Resistance. So this is basically a 5 players match game, 4 in a squad, and there's one mastermind controlling all the BOWs and traps to avoid the squad surviving and getting out of a testing environment, a facility basically. So this multiplayer game, Resident Evil Resistance, is supported by Capcom. You know, they added a couple of characters in it and tons of costumes for you to buy, to unlock. The 4 characters have different kind of skills and classes to do a lot of different things. Even the mastermind, there's 4 or 5 masterminds now, if I remember correctly. So yeah, it's a pretty full-fledged online multiplayer game. But talking about the content, compared to Resident Evil 3 original, the Mercenaries mode is gone. Basically, like, the Mercenary mode originally started back as a battle mode in Resident Evil 2 Remake. I talked about this a little bit during my Resident Evil 2 review. This carried on to Resident Evil 3 on the PlayStation 1 and, you know, on the classic Resident Evil 3, and it was really fun. And this carries on to Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 6. You know, there's a lot. There's even a Nintendo 3DS game called The Mercenary. So this mode is big. It's just basically a mini game per se. You go around, kill zombies, or you try to get out of the city, go from point A to point B. So there's a lot of different style. But ever since Resident Evil 4 is becoming more of a battle arena thing, like a horde mode essentially. So people keep coming at you and you need to get higher score, kill them, kill higher score, and survive the timer. The Mercenaries mode is gone for Resident Evil 3 Remake. They replaced it by this Resident Evil Resistance game, a full online multiplayer game, so you can't play alone. In terms of the whole package, you have a standalone 2-3 hours single player story with Jill Valentine, and you have a online multiplayer game. So other than that, there's no side stories like what you see in Resident Evil 2. There's nothing. So I really don't know why Capcom stopped that legacy, because when you mention Resident Evil 3, the first second thing that I think of is the mercenary mode. So talking about the content of the game as well, I don't think it's fair for Capcom to be pushing the players to play Resident Evil Resistance, because there are some people that just outright don't enjoy playing multiplayers, or maybe they found Resistance too dull, or they don't enjoy it. Some people will love it, you know, but I don't think it's fair for Capcom to completely cut out the mercenary mode, because everyone will enjoy that mode. I don't know why Capcom decided to cut this content, but really it is a missed opportunity on their end. So we bang on about the content of the game, and we know that Capcom offered Resident Evil Resistance, but this is another negative. Resident Evil Resistance isn't even that good. It can be quite fun for a few matches, but it quickly get repetitive. Because Resident Evil Resistance is a standalone game, kind of, I don't want to go into too much about Resident Evil Resistance, but the 5-6 hours experience that I had fun. I did have fun, but I quickly got bored and just don't want to grind for those costumes or cosmetic stuff, and some of them need money as well. It doesn't sit well for me that it's a full price game and you are offering microtransaction with a 3-hour single player game, but basically just pushing you to play this online game and forces you to spend money. And I don't like that. I don't like that business model at all from Capcom. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I really like the design or the redesign of the character. You know, Carlos looked badass. The redesign on Jill Valentine as well, more realistic. The voice acting is excellent. There's a lot of memes on Jill facial expression throughout the game, throughout the cutscene, which is great. And she's wearing more kind of realistic costume, you know, instead of a boob tube and a mini skirt going to a nightclub or something. She's wearing jeans and vests, more situational to kind of, you know, escape Raccoon City in a virus outbreak. So I like that about the game. It is more realistic looking. It's good fun. Carlos more rugged, like I said before, and all the other NPC as well. Their redesign has been great. I do like the redesign of Nemesis. They didn't change it too much. You know, the design of the characters, the places, it's been great. The rework, it looks beautiful. It's a beautiful game. The graphics wise is absolutely beautiful. I think I said it in the gameplay a couple episodes back that I genuinely think it looks slightly better than Resident Evil 2, but you know, not too much better. So talking about the design of the game though, one big disappointment is that they reused a lot of the asset from Resident Evil 2. I know they're now rebuilding this game or all these Resident Evil games using what they call RE engine. So they build an engine for it, and a lot of assets is being reused between Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 2 Remake, and 3 Remake. There's not been a lot of touch up or even like changing the color of the items. No, it just literally copy and paste, copy and paste. So I think next up, this is my biggest complaint about this Resident Evil 3 Remake, and it's what made and created a lot of criticism on the game as well. It's just the fact that the devs simply did not put a lot of thoughts on the story of Resident Evil 3. So compared to the original, Resident Evil 3 are missing a lot of elements. The St. Michael Clock Tower, the park, they did the hospital, but the park outside the hospital leading up to the disposal facility, that's all missing, and they turn it into a lab, and then inside the lab they have a disposal facility. That's kind of okay, but they missed a big part in St. Michael's. They missed Jill going back to Raccoon Police Department. They could have easily create a storyline there with the surviving members of polices there. There's just so much opportunity for the dev team to expand on the story. You know, like I said in Resident Evil 2, they can easily expand it into the Raccoon City street. Maybe the hotels. Maybe just branch out on some other storyline to plug a hole or something on the plot. You know, because it doesn't matter about the story of the game. I think it's just trying to extend the game as much as possible while the story makes sense, while develop the character of Jill Valentine. I know who Jill Valentine is. I know she is a badass, and I play through all the Resident Evil games, so I know who Jill Valentine is. I know who Carlos is, but I just don't feel like people, newcomer, coming to the game, experiencing the game for the first time, will really get to know who Jill is and who Carlos is, and why the UBCS is there, and why Umbrella is bad. I feel like the remake is even shorter. And not only that, it doesn't give you a big variety of boss battles. It's just the fact that remake always have you going against Nemesis, which is not bad, you know. But it took out that thrill of fighting some other bosses in the area. And they could easily expand the story, expand the location, the arena of playable areas, and give us a couple more bosses to fight. You know, Carlos didn't really have a boss. He just defended the hospital. Give him a boss. You know, extend the story, give us a challenge. But they just didn't. They just didn't do anything. The dev team just literally say, okay, yeah, we'll the street of Raccoon, there you go. Dump this in there. Oh, hospital, dump this in there. Oh, a story, it makes sense. Oh, let's just dust it off and let's work on resistance. That's how I feel about the game. Is that the dev just did not give a shit about the Resident Evil 3 as the main campaign, and instead put all their hours into Resident Evil Resistance, because that was supposed to be the cash cow. That's supposed to push people to play the online game and buy a lot of stuff in microtransaction, buy a lot of packs, get a lot of cosmetic.
What's going on?
That's why they're pushing it. They're pushing that Resistance instead of Resident Evil 3. But they'll use Resident Evil 3 as a name to get people to buy the game, so then they will have Resident Evil Resistance. So that's how I feel about the story, is the fact that the dev just left it as short as possible. It's still, like I said, a good quality, a good experience, but for a guy who played the original, and how well Capcom has remade Resident Evil 2, I can't believe they messed this up and just outright just did not care about the story. So the last point that I want to make, I think it's a positive, but I'm not too sure. I feel like this is more of a DLC to Resident Evil 2 instead of a standalone Resident Evil game. The fact is that Capcom can make a lot more money by slapping a Resident Evil 3 remake and selling the online multiplayer game in the Resident Evil Resistance, and try to make money out of microtransactions. That's what they want to do. They didn't care about the Resident Evil 3 stories, they didn't care about the fans, they didn't care about anything. They just see that Resident Evil 2 is doing really well, and the next year after Resident Evil 2 was released, they want to push another game to earn more money. That's exactly what they're trying to do. So, with that being said, it sounded like it is negative. So for people who haven't played the original at all, they will enjoy this game. It's a solid game, like I said. It feels more like a DLC to Resident Evil 2 Remake, but that's not exactly a bad thing. And if you enjoy Resident Evil Resistance as well, you will enjoy this package with Resident Evil 3 and full-fledged online game. But at the end of the day, people who bought this game full price will still feel that the content is lacking and the experience is a bit of a short sell in a way from Capcom. So Resident Evil 3 Remake essentially made fans from the original angry and newcomer unsatisfied. So that's it. That's my 10 good and bad thing about Resident Evil 3 Remake based on my thought, my opinion, and my review. So basically, there's a lot more negative than positive. That's for definite. I think Resident Evil 2 Remake, I said, is one of my favorite games of all time, not just in the Resident Evil franchise. And Resident Evil 3 is far from that. So overall, I'm just gonna cap it up with basically Resident Evil 3 Remake is a Capcom product of laziness and ambitious, focusing on unnecessarily content such as the multiplayer game in Resident Evil Resistance. You know, good try. You know, it's a good try. Some people enjoy it, some people like it, some people don't. But I think Resident Evil Resistance was one of the best multiplayer offering that Capcom have done for Resident Evil franchise. But with that being said, what have plagued my experience with Resident Evil 3 is similar to what Jill said at the end, is greed. You know, Capcom was being greedy. They had success with Resident Evil 7, which revived the franchise. They have success with the Resident Evil 2 Remake, and they just want to quickly release a game out there to earn more money from fans. Because Resident Evil 3 wasn't announced first, it was Resident Evil Resistance, the online game, the side piece, was announced first before Resident Evil 3 Remake. But fans have such a bad negative feedback and reaction when Capcom has shown this multiplayer game. Fans of the game, of the franchise, was scratching their head and saying that why is Capcom offering us an online multiplayer game, right? Some will think that, okay, they're trying out online multiplayer game again. It's gonna be another Umbrella Corporation game, which is shit, which is disaster. But Capcom quickly, after I think it was a couple of months, decided that they will show a Resident Evil 3 Remake trailer and then slap at the back at the end of the video of the trailer, Project Resistance will be part of Resident Evil 3. So they bundled this up, the Resident Evil Resistance, bundle it up with Resident Evil 3, so players and fans, newcomers are more accepting to the fact that Resident Evil Resistance will be in that package instead of a standalone game. So what I'm trying to say here is Capcom is greedy. Capcom is greedy, they want to get money from fans, and they know that they receive some negative feedback and reaction from fans about Resident Evil Resistance, so they know they have to do something about it in order for that game to do well in a way. So they slap Resident Evil 3 on top and say, here we go, here's the remake that you guys been looking for, but guess what, we didn't do much on it. You know, we didn't do much on it. My final score that I give to this game after replaying it again is 7 out of 10. Like I said previously, my first impression is 9 out of 10, but after thinking more about the stories and more about Capcom's direction on this game, I have to drop it down a couple of notches. So overall, the gameplay is really good. Good experience gameplay, solid experience, really have fun playing through the game. The characters look great, the location look great, but unfortunately the negative is that Capcom was being lazy, Capcom was greedy about Resident Evil 3, and their offering of Resident Evil Resistance is just not that fun, and it could have been expanded a lot more. If you feel like Capcom had stepped a foot in it and then not to go into that direction fully committed. So that being said, I hope you guys enjoy my thoughts, my opinion and my review on Resident Evil 3 Remake. Click the like button if you did, subscribe to my channel for my next Resident Evil title, which would be the Resident Evil Code Veronica, and to watch me continue my path to Resident Evil 8 Village. Stay safe out there, keep calm, and video game. Peace.
I felt empty and cold as the heat from the blast washed over us. All this death wasn't caused by a monster-making virus. It was greed. Human greed.
The next title, Resident Evil Code Veronica X. Look at that. A little bit of a slow-mo there as well. I like that. Claire's nightmare has just started.
I don't want you following me, lady. You'll only slow me down.
Bang. Oh. Alright, before you do that, let me reload my gun manually. Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Oh, no. It's one of the tradition in Resident Evil now, so...
Yeah! Help me!
between Alexa and Alfred.
Steve?
So that's why. Ooh.
Redfield! How dare you interfere with my operation?